Today, we have Mandy McCullough, who is a Samby ambassador, of course. She's also a Redken artist, a salon owner at Fix Salon, and she's going to be teaching us a little bit about Pixie haircutting. She's been doing hair for almost 20 years. What? You're not going to believe that when you see her. She must have started when she was 5. But anyway, 16 of those years, she has been a Redken educator. She's, like I said, salon owner at Fix Salon in Seattle for 10 years. And she's very driven to help career-minded stylists live their best life through continuing education. So please, in the chat, welcome our good friend, Mandy McCullough.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. Oh my gosh, good morning, you guys. Mannequin Monday. I always get so excited to hang out with all of the Samvia family and you, Andrew. So thank you so much for having me today.
Our pleasure. We're gonna get off the screen and turn you loose, and I'll be popping back in to bother you though.
Perfect. Good. I look forward to it. All right, you guys. So as a Redken educator, I go across the country and I teach to salons and different teams, and I work at the Redken Exchange in New York, but I also have my own team in the salon. And the number one challenge we're always trying to better ourselves in is short haircuts, and specifically pixie cuts. So what I want to see in the comments from you guys today is when a client comes in and says, hey, I'm ready to make a change and I want to go short, how does that make you feel? Write how you feel in that comment bar. I have a couple of little benchmark girls here that we're going to talk about today. So here's one version. And I think the thing that's really important to know is that when we do pixie cut, if you have a really surefire template or pattern to follow, then you can really develop it into any shortcut. So that's the plan today, is really to work with you guys and give you one and done look so you can section cut. And I'll tell you, this only has, oh my gosh, nervous, I'm scared. Yes, good. You guys, thank you so much for sharing that. I love hearing that in the comments. You are not alone. I am telling you, short haircuts are a really big challenge right now for a lot of stylists. And I'm going to show you, and this is only, are you ready? 3 sections. That's all you have to do for this haircut. So I promise you it's super easy. And just from watching this, you're going to be able to go right into the salon and start using it. So I want to get started with this. I'm going to put this in here. Oh my gosh. Hi, Sonia from Pakistan. Oh my gosh, so many people out there. All right, so here's my mannequin so we can get started. So 3 sections. And really quickly, Andrew, will you just pull up that first slide that I have for you guys? I put together a few images because I really just wanted to come back and talk about like true pixie cut. We're going to do a classic pixie at first, but here's all the different looks that we can create with this template that I'm going to give you today. There's so many variations. So once you have this template down and you know how to create those 3 sections and get into your cut, then these are all the looks that you can create with it, which is really cool. Oh my gosh, I love short haircuts. Awesome. Oh, love pixie cuts. That's great. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing, what I'm going to use as my cutting lotion is something a little bit different than maybe what you've seen in the past for those of you who follow us Redken artists. We have a new product. This is acidic bonding conditioning system. This is the leave-in conditioner. It has 5% citric acid. So the whole plan with it is that it helps to contract the cuticles. So for anyone who has any chemical work done on their hair, it's a really amazing product to use on them, and a little bit goes a long way. I'm going to show you. That's as much as I've used. This is the second amount I'm putting through her hair. And this is going to be my cutting lotion today, because then as I comb through her hair, it's going to continue to spread this leave-in conditioner in her hair. It's going to give her some really nice smoothness as we blow this out, and it's going to give her more control with her short haircut. So that goes in first. Now, 3 sections. Here we go. The first thing I'm going to do is we're going to section at the parietal ridge. If you're not sure, because short haircuts, it's really important that you're finding your client's parietal ridge, not just the random parietal ridge sectioning that you might just do without thinking. So I always put a comb on top of the head. Then I put a comb on the side of the head. Do you see how it created that 90-degree angle? Where that 90-degree angle would come straight into the head, that's this client's corner of her head. So we want to make sure that we're customizing it to this client. So then I'm going to just come in and I'm going to section that out of the way and do the same thing on the other side. Same thing on this other side. Take that section out. So now we have 2 sections. We have everything below the parietal ridge, and I have everything above the parietal ridge. I'm going to comb this down, and I'm just going to section out the top. And this client who came in before had a bob haircut, and she had fringe. And so we're gonna work this fringe into her new pixie cut. And I'm just gonna clean this up from around here. And my 2 sections are done. So you guys can see Parietal Ridge, section that out of the way. Now I have 2 sections. Now I'm going to show you guys the 3rd section. I'm going to pull up a a slide so you guys can screenshot this because this is 3 sections that you need. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to tip this forward. Let me see, am I going to tip her forward? I'm going to tip her forward. Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So now do you see where the red section is? That's your bridge. So below the Parietal Ridge is section 1. Then the red section is the bridge. And then the top that's in green is the top, right? So there's your 3 sections. If you have these 3 sections, you're gonna give you tons of freedom for what type of short haircut you create. So based on that, let's just keep for now, I'm just gonna keep this clean and keep this top out of the way, and we'll come back and put in the bridge after we cut through the section 1 lower part. All right, perfect. So make sure you get a screenshot of that slide so you have it for yourself, but we'll bring it up again before the end of class so you can see it. So awesome. Thank you for bringing that slide up, Andrew. Okay, now I'm going to start in the back. Keep in mind, whenever I'm cutting, I have a choice of what type of sectioning lines I'm taking. I can either take straight lines, meaning vertical lines this way. I can take horizontal lines this way, or I can take diagonal lines that way. If we take vertical lines, our silhouette is going to be long, lean, and narrow. If I take horizontal lines, I'm going to build up weight within my silhouette or shape. So for pixie cuts, for me, my go-to is to work with diagonal lines. So if you guys use diagonal lines when you do short haircuts, say that's me in the chat bar. I'm starting in center back. My first section is going to be vertical just to get my guide in there. And I'm going to start at the top of this section. And then I want you to watch how this is going to change as I go through. So here's my first section. Make sure you guys can see. Good. And let's get her out of the way because I feel like she's blocking your guys' view. So I'm going to come in. Now I'm going to cut. My first section was vertical. Now, as I go down the head shape, I'm going to cut what we call in Redken is cutting to the planes. We're going to follow the head shape when I go through. Thanks, you guys. I see that's me, that's me, that's me. Yeah, diagonal sections, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and pick up my next section, take some of my guide from the previous. My finger position is going to start mimicking the shape of the head right here. So we start rounding to the head shape, and I'm going to come in and cut. Then I can drop out what I don't need, come in and pick this up. My finger angle is going to follow the head shape, and I'm going to cut. And then I have one more little section there, and I'm going to come and cut that. Okay, so now we're going to start working into diagonals. What'll happen as I work through, so here's my first section right here. As I continue through, I'm going to start pivoting. So my next section is going to be a little bit more diagonal. Then my next section is going to be a little bit more diagonal, and continue around the head in diagonal sections. So the only vertical section we work with is that first center back section. And then as we go through, we're going to start going diagonal. So now I'm going to take a diagonal section. I have some of my guide from my previous section, so you guys can see I want to take this all out of the way. I'm going to turn my mannequin head because I think you'll be able to see me cut through this side over here. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. So now I have some of my guide. Take this. Now I'm starting to work on a diagonal. So now I'm going to come in. I can see my guide from underneath, and I'm going to cut. Remember, now my finger position or my finger angle is going to follow the shape of the head as it works down. This is what's going to hug that shape in and make it follow and sit close to the hairline. See how it sits. Now I'm going to come through and I'm going to go diagonal. So this, I'll show you. So my first section was vertical. My next section was diagonal. And now I'm going to continue diagonal into my next section. You guys, so many of you are saying hi, good morning. That's so great. Good morning. Because I bet where some of you guys are, it probably isn't morning. But here in Seattle where I am, it is 8 o'clock in the morning. It's early. All right. So continuing down my diagonal sections, following the head shape, coming through. And now you can see how my line is still diagonal right here. Take my next section, continue pivoting with my diagonal line, coming through, come back so you guys can see what I'm doing. Find my guide, cut. Notice as I'm combing, I comb once from the top, and then my comb comes once from the bottom. This ensures that the hair is going to come straight up from where it lives. If I continually comb, say from the top, from the top, from the top, it's going to push my hair back and it's going to get me into over direction. Then by the time I get to the front, it's going to be longer than the back. It's not going to be even. I'm going to have to spend time coming in and cleaning it up. So when I use my comb, if I comb evenly from each side of my section, I know that it's going to give even, consistent tension and pull it straight out from the head. All right, so now I'm going to go in with my next diagonal section. I'm going to take this and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Oh yeah, you guys can see diagonal line on there. Yeah, good morning from Virginia. Over direction brings softness. Yeah, that's true. However, for this with the pixie cut, we typically see a pretty even and consistent length throughout the below the perimeter length. If we're stylizing it, we can, but we're sticking with a classic shape. So we really want every section to come straight out from where it lives. So now I'm going to come in, make sure I have some of my guide, follow my guide, make sure I'm staying diagonal sections, and follow the head shape. Now, here's a part where we're coming up to in front of the ear and over the ear. So here's what I want you guys to know. A lot of times we have clients who we want to have like a little PC bit, or we want to customize what's happening around their face. So if we look at this model, you can see, oops, where is she? Here's our little PC bit here, right? Now, I'll tell you the secret to this is that we don't have to do much at all to make it happen, because if you look at naturally what happens with the hairline, do you see how the hairline dips right here? So the hairline's already going to start helping us customize with some wispiness that's going to come down into the front. So we don't have to get too caught up in it. It's automatically going to do it for us as long as we're consistent with our length and our guide. So I'm going to come back in and find my next diagonal.
Mandy, Rose is asking, is your diagonal section staying the same or getting more angled?
Great question. So yeah, it's pivoting as I go. So while center back, I was vertical, and then I start pivoting. And as I pivot, my diagonal starts to get steeper and steeper till it's almost like horizontal diagonal as I start coming to the front. So great observation. You guys are paying attention. That's super. So yeah, because now you can see how this angle is even getting steeper as I go through into that section. So now I'm going to come here. I'm going to, again, take my length, look for my guide, follow through, down, and now this is just what we were talking about. You can see how much steeper that diagonal line is getting as I work towards the front of the head. So think about this, as I'm starting to change that diagonal and starting to get more horizontal, it's still going to be rounded, which is what we want with these pixie cut silhouettes, is a rounded shape. But I'm going to start building a little bit of weight up into the side, which is just going to help add some fullness. So that's why we're letting that diagonal line shift as it comes forward. Make sure you guys can see, come in, and I'm going to finish off this section, and then I'm going to show you what this did around the hairline. And now I just have one section left, and this I can just come in, find my guide, and cut. Oh, one hair there. All right, here's the other hot tip with this, is what shears am I using when I do it? Now, this is where length really creates success with this shape. These are the Samvia, these are the signature, and these are the swivel shears. These are the 6-inch, right? I want a shorter shear when I'm working in section 1, which is below the parietal ridge, because I'm following the head shape, and the head shape is smaller bites, so I can stay in more control of that. So versus if I were to come in with, let's say, like, you guys know my favorite is the Samvia 7-inch dry shear. But that blade's so long that when I'm trying to stay in control of the head shape in these smaller sections, I have too much blade here that I don't need. So this is where a smaller, shorter length blade is really going to be beneficial to you as you work through those sections. Okay, so that's how I decide what type of shear to use with this. Now, just checking to see how you guys are doing. Diagonal sections, awesome. Good morning from Seattle as well. Joanna, that's great. It's nice to see you today. All right, now on the other side, we're going to do a little bit of a variation. We're going to switch it up a little bit so I can show you how to start playing around with this. So to recap, and Andrew, will you bring the sectioning slide up again with the 3 sections? So right now, out of our 3 sections, we're working in section 1, which is blue. So everything from the parietal ridge and below. We started in center back with a vertical line of sectioning, but then we pivot off of that and we start moving through diagonals, and our diagonals start getting steeper and steeper, almost to a horizontal as we come forward, because that's going to create softness and roundness to the look. So this is, on this side, what I just did is more like a classic shape when we're working with a classic type of pixie cut. But now what I want to do is start talking about, what if we want to change it up? Like right now, shags, mullets, all, short in the front, long in the back is really popular. So how do we start changing that as we come into a new shape? So that's what I'll show over on this side. So everything else stays the same though. We're going to use that first section that I did in the diagonal. I'm sorry, in vertical. Then I'm going to start working into my diagonal. But then the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my finger angle. In classic Pixie, we want our finger angle to follow the head shape. Now what I'm going to do is start keeping this a little bit more square to the head shape as I come down through the nape and the occipital, so that I'm gaining more length as I'm coming down and changing that silhouette. So coming through, and because she was a shorter bob before, I'm actually going to run out of hair as I come through. But it's how we work our finger angle that's going to start changing the shape. The pattern's the same, still 3 sections, the parietal ridge, the bridge, and then the top. But we can play with our finger angle as we work through here to start changing that silhouette even more. So now I'm going to come in again with my diagonal section. Remember, I'm combing evenly from the top and then from the underneath. Come in and find my guide. And I'm letting this, let's see, I'm going to show it to my guide a little bit better. There we go. Come in and cut, and then drop out what I don't need, keep some from my guide, top, bottom, come in, cut, and I'm practically running out of hair just because of the length I had in that section. And continuing through, I'm going to cut these next 2 sections, comb evenly. Now, also, this is going to be your setup as well if you want to do like an undercut, right? The only difference I would do if I was going to undercut this is my length might be a little bit shorter in section 1 below the parietal ridge. The other thing I'm probably going to do is, as I'm cutting this first section, rather than squaring it out to the head shape, I might actually elevate it a little bit, because then when I do that, it's going to round to the head shape even more. So these are all the little levers that we can change to have control over that silhouette. So just coming through, coming from the top and then the bottom, and then cut. And I'm just going to show you guys where my diagonal line is so you can see how that's pivoting as I come forward. So here's the section I'm working on now. You can see that diagonal line is changing a little bit more diagonal. You can come in. No, let's see. I'm going to lower her a little bit so I have more control, but then I'll lower my camera for you guys too so you can see. There she is. Okay. So now take only what you can control, comb from each side, find your guide, and cut. Underneath, we're squaring this out. We're changing the finger angle as it comes down. Moving to the front, take my diagonal section. And just to keep this clean and so you guys can see, I'm going to clip this out of the way. Seeing what's Reshma saying. Combing from back and front will also, Oh, I just lost it, Reshna. We'll come back. So while going diagonal, are you kind of over directing to the last cut section? It is not a dumb question, Blanca. That's a really good question, actually. So remember, in this haircut, when we talk about pixies, like true classic pixie, we want every section to come straight out from where it lives. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a small guide from my previous section, but I'm not directing the cutting section back to that. So they're all coming straight out from where they live. So the intention is to have no over direction as I work through those sections. Great question. Good. Coming through, and now I'm going to just keep leaving this a little bit longer as it comes forward to play with our silhouette again underneath, and take my diagonal and show you guys how that diagonal, here's that diagonal line right there as it's coming through. Take a little bit and I'll show you, like, that's how much of my previous, it's just a sliver that I'm taking. And then my finger angle's changing. I'm going to go here so you guys can see my finger angle, how it changes as I'm coming out. Do you see how I'm getting longer at the bottom when I come through that section? So we can play with the silhouette. So if we want to create like a classic pixie shape, what I did on the other side was I followed the head shape. My finger angle always followed and mirrored the head shape. But then as you want variations and you want to play with this, then we can come through, just work with your finger angle. And so Andrew, I actually think there's a slide where it's just the blue, the section 1 under the parietal ridge, and it shows some altered finger angles. If you want to pull that one up for me. Yeah, perfect. So see on the right side, we can see this would be even and this follows the head shape. That's our classic pixie look. But then if we want to start switching up, just change the finger angle as you start working through the head shape so you can get more length through it. So you guys take a screenshot of that so you have that to go with your sectioning, just to remind you how to play with variations of this shape. So that's really similar to what I did in the back of this haircut, right? So in section 1 for below the parietal ridge, all I did in the back section was just started changing my finger angle so that it was longer and squared out and kept length, but it's still short as it comes through the back and the crown, but gained length back here, just changing the finger angle. As I came into the sides are actually totally disconnected and I created a new length. Oh, let's see, can we pull that slide off now probably? Yeah, perfect. So then I just created a new length from below the parietal ridge here to work with the shorter on the front. So there's actually 2 lengths that are disconnected, and I started a new guide for this front piece. But sectioning's the same. Everything's below the parietal ridge for that part, okay? All right, how are you guys doing? How are we? Questions, Andrew? Before I move to the top, I have one more section here, and then we're gonna go into that bridge section so you can see how that works. So now I'm going to take my last section.
Doing great so far. Carmen had a question about what happened at the occipital bone, but I think you just sort of explained that.
Touched base on it. Okay, super, great. All right, so just to recap what we're doing, we're talking about pixie cuts, and we're talking about how can we do this in 3 simple sections. So the first section is with parietal ridge and below. We started with a vertical line of sectioning, but then as we move forward, it's pivoting into diagonals, and it gets more and more diagonals as it moves forward because diagonal lines create softness. If we play with our finger angle, that's what's going to give you the customization to what you want to have happen with your client. So we say we can do this with a classic pixie cut. This is the map to create any short haircut that you want in the salon. Now we're going to move up to what we call the bridge, or your second section. I have this sectioned off from the parietal ridge and above, but what I'm going to do is take a small triangle section, and I'm going to see if I can tilt her a little bit this way. So what I'm going to do is start from the base of the crown. Yeah, perfect. You guys can see that in the slide. And I'm going to take a diagonal forward line that's just going to create a small triangle that's going to bridge between the top and below in that section. And I'm going to take this and I'll comb it down so you guys can see what that looks like. So you guys can see that's the bridge. And I would take this section on both sides of the top of the haircut. So section 1 is everything below parietal ridge. Section 2 is this bridge that we create between below and the top, and then whatever's left over is the top. So this is my connecting piece. We're going to go back to classic pixie shape because that's what we're doing on the left side of her head. And what I want to do is comb this into natural fall. You'll find a lot of times that sometimes this is where our clients in the salon have a natural direction of hair growth. And you really want to make sure you respect it, because if you cut to that natural direction, it's going to lay and it's going to be easier for them to style. So I'm combing this into her natural fall. It tends to move a little bit forward, so I'm letting that natural direction come into play. And I'm still going to work with diagonal sections, you guys. So I'm going to come in with diagonal sections. I'll clip this off as I go so you can watch, and I'll turn this mannequin head to the camera so you'll be able to see what's happening. There we go. If I can get this clip to stay in there for me. Come on, clip. There we go. So the first part of my bridge, you can see here's where that diagonal is coming in that I'm going to cut. Now I'm going to turn her so you can see my cutting section coming in. All I want to do is find my guide. Let me get her a little bit closer for you. Here's my guide, and I'm just going to cut to that guide. So you're just matching it. If this is probably similar to maybe how you connect with like your men's haircuts or your shorter, more square haircuts, but because we're taking this on a diagonal versus vertical, which is what we do a lot of times when we're cutting like square, short haircuts, the diagonal line is going to give a little bit more softness and roundness to the shape. So I'm coming in. Now I have a guide underneath, and I have a guide from my previous section, and I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to take another diagonal section here, and I am going to make sure you guys can see, cut. And then remember, this is a triangle, so that last one is just such a tiny sliver. I'm going to show you guys, like that's all the hair that we have in the tip of that triangle. So I'm going to bring that in, and there's such a small amount of hair, I can just find my line with a horizontal finger position, and I'm just going to come in and cut that. There. So now take a look at that silhouette that we're creating. It's close to her head, but what we wanted to have happen was we just want a little bit of roundness, and that's what we're getting with the diagonal lines. So same thing on the other side. I'm going to come in and create my bridge. So I'm going to take a diagonal forward line, creating a small triangle. The widest space of my triangle is back towards the crown, and the smallest piece of the triangle, here, it's going to be towards her face. Let me get that section out for you. There you go.
Mandy, once you have it sectioned, can you show us the back part of the sectioning so we can see kind of how wide that portion of the section?
There. Find that angle for you. So you can see, so we're just creating that section. It's just that little triangle that connects from below the parietal ridge and connects into the top. Once I've found that section, then I'm going to comb it, respect where her natural fall, where the hair naturally directs to. Again, I'm going to let this come into a diagonal so it continues that softness. And now I'm going to come through and I'm going to connect it just like I did on the other side. So now I'm going to come in. You can see where here's my guide for my previous section. And even though on this side, we changed the finger angle so that it was getting longer as it came down through the bottom of the head shape, I'm going to just stay the same on both sides of the head as I work through the bridge or my second segment in this haircut. My guide, cut. And I'm combing this into diagonals so I can easily take those sections into diagonals. So again, just so you guys can see, that's the diagonal line that I'm working through with my section. And even through this section, I'm still using a shorter shear so that I can stay in control of the head shape as I work through my sections. And we just have one more little piece. Oh, we just about got it all right there. So now on this side, because we left it longer in the base, we're going to actually have more hair to detail and play with. A lot of times when I'm working with this and we really want to play with customization, Don't cut the hair off. Sometimes we get so excited to get into a short haircut, we end up just cutting all the hair off. I know I've done it 1,000 times. If you guys have done that, said I've cut it too much, there was nothing left to play with when I was done, right? So this is where all the fun comes in. This is the money piece on our haircut. This is like what's going to be able to come in and play with. So once it's all the way dry, we can start carving through that and customizing it to our client. So I really like it when we leave a little bit of room to play with on that side versus on this side where it was our classic shape, where we're keeping things really close to the head and more classic in that silhouette as well.
Nice. A couple questions on the bridge section.
Yeah.
Vicky was asking, how do you know how wide to take that triangle, and would the size of that section ever change?
Great question. So think about it this way. What I want, was that Nikki you said who asked that question? Vicky. Okay, so Vicky, here's what I want you to think about. Great question. So here's what I think of. If I took my comb, I'm holding my comb vertical. I'm going to put it to the outside corner of my, notice it's not at my eye, it's right on the outside. This is what we call the outside of our ocular bone. And if I take that comb and rock it right up to my hairline, that is the front corners of the head shape. So that's where I want that triangle to go. And then what I'm thinking of is almost like if I'm kind of creating a fringe, but the fringe is going to elongate into this back triangle. So I want the width of what I do with my bridge. There we go. What the width of my bridge to be is I want it to be, it can't go any higher than where that comb connects to the hairline because that's where that front corner is. And then the width is always going to be about 1 inch. It's never going to change too much unless you want to create more shortness through the top. So it always starts right there at the front corner of the head. It finishes at the back center of the crown, and the width is never going to get wider than about 1 inch because that's all you need just to bridge the length between underneath parietal ridge and up into the top section. Do you think, does that help, Andrew? Did that clarify that?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
I'm going to actually isolate this top triangle, so then it'll kind of help you guys see what we did with that bridge section. So I'm going to take this down and I will show you. So now here's what we have for the top triangle section. And so this is what I meant is when we were saying take it so that if we had a comb and it was vertical on her to her ocular bone and it rocks up straight up, you can see where that connects right at that front corner. So then we know that above that front corner is where we want it to be the top. And then where that corner is where the front of the triangle is for the bridge. So great question, Vicky. Good job. Good job. All right. Top. You guys, this is where we have a lot of room to play with. And so again, Andrew, will you now bring up the slide that has the green top with the different finger angles on it as well, so we can look at it? This is where you're really going to have the opportunity to play with finger angle again. So the very first one on the right-hand side, I think it is to you guys, you can just see it's even all the way through. We're following what we say to the planes of the head. And so our finger position is coming straight up off the head shape. It's following the head shape as we work through, and it stays nice and even. That would be classic pixie shape. But now as we talk about how do we play around with that, maybe I want it to get longer as it goes to the front. So my finger angle is actually going to change and start letting my length get longer as it moves towards the front. Same if we change it so it goes to the back. Just change your finger angle as you go through. So I'm going to say, I want to hear from you guys as I go through the top. Do you want it to stay even? Do you want it to get longer towards the front? Or do you want it to get longer towards the back? So if you wanted to stay even, type in even. If you wanted to get longer towards the front, put front in the comments. And if you wanted to get longer in the back, put back. So you're either putting even, front, or back. And then I'm going to, this is like choose your own haircut on Sam via live education. Let's see. Andrew, will you help me out and tell me what we're seeing in this? Is there, okay, I see a front, oh, back, longer in the back. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes. Oh, front. Okay, front's going to win, you guys. I see a lot of front. Oh, now back's. Okay, I think front's got it. Let's go with front. I know, right? It's like a frenzy. Front, back, even. Let's go longer to the front. I think that's one that I usually use a lot, so I think it'll be good for us to talk about that. So we're working through our top section. So it's that triangle section right there. You can see it. I'm going to work from the back to the front. The other thing that I'm going to do is I need to be aware of where my length is going to go. I want to check this. Remember, she had fringe before. We're gonna check and see. Well, I don't know. We might go to the back. Have you ever had that where your client says, I wanted to get longer in the front? And you're like, well, but the front's already only this long. So I don't know if we can do that for you today. So let's see if we can do it. Let's check a section. So I'm taking a section, straight section in through the center top. And I'll show you this section, straight through center top. There we go, straight through center top. And we're gonna check and see, oh, I see a front. Yeah, I think we can do this. Okay, I'm gonna make this get longer in the front. So I'm gonna break this down so it's just as much as I can hold. And I wanna work to the head shape. Now, my guide, look, is gonna come from my section in the back that I've already cut. So I can come through here. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna switch shears now because I'm gonna start point cutting. And for point cutting, I like to use a longer shear because it gives me more control and getting more depth in my point cutting. So now I'm going to my Samvia 7-inch dry cutting shears. Of course, I'm using it on wet hair, but I still like to use it on wet hair for this because I like the length of this blade to work with. And when I'm point cutting, my personal preference is to go non-swivel versus a swivel shear. I love swivel when I'm cutting below and I need a lot of control with short, you know, like when I'm changing this as I cut. But when I'm coming into point cut, my personal preference is to just keep it with a solid, solid and not have the swivel option. So, okay, coming in, now I'm gonna come through and I'm going to just give some big point cuts through there. And then once I do that, I can come in and point cut even more into my shape. Then now I can continue to work down this line. This is almost just like a mohawk section and it's about 1 inch in width and it's running from center back to center front, straight down the center of the head. We're getting longer as we go, so I need to change my finger angles. I come through, find my previous section. First, I'm just gonna use these longer shears to cut the length. Now I can come in and stand it up so I can give some texture into that. Then let me lower her a little bit so you guys can continue to see. Now I'm going to get rid of some of what I cut previously, keep some for a guide, pick up for what I want here, and then I'm going to come in and cut into that section so you guys can see right there. Now, if I come back and review this, we went from short to long to the front. So you can see here's the length getting longer. Here's the length getting longer. And here's the length getting even longer. Now she had some fringe and we're gonna talk about that because we can actually create some overlay with a shorter fringe underneath, which is gonna be really nice for her. Once I did that little mohawk line that was through the center top from center back to center front, now I'm just gonna work on either side in those 1 inch sections. But now I have a guide from the back. I also have a guide from that center strip that I took as well. So I can come in, take this section up, only hold what you can control, follow your guide, take some length off, then I'm gonna come in and point cut it for texture. Only take what I can control, watch my line, my angle is gonna create it so the hair is gonna get longer as it moves to the front. Take what I need, continue through, watch my line and my angle. Now I'm starting to get closer to my bridge section, right? So I'm probably gonna run out of hair, but I wanna check this. Oh, there's a little bit there. And also this hair is elevated straight out from the head shape. So I'm not taking all of this hair straight up vertical. That would create a really square shape. Not right or wrong, I just want something a little bit rounder. So I'm actually, as these sections elevate, remember the first one was the strip through the center top, that one went straight up. But then as I move to the side, I'm still following these straight out where they live from the head shape. So I'm gonna start getting these a little bit angled because they're basically 90 degrees off the head shape. So as I come into this, my last section from the top, and I'm kind of connecting into the bridge, you can see my elevation is actually straight out from where the head lives. And then I can come in and find my guide, make sure I'm changing my angle, take off the length first, then I have control to come back in with my longer blade and I can point cut in. Same thing on the other side. Let's see, I'm gonna keep her this way. And now I'm just gonna do a little bit more salon speed with this. that, come up, watch for my guide, change my angle, take off some of that length, point cut in. So Andrew, let's bring up the sectioning slide again, as I'm just kind of working through this, just so we can remind everybody, if you didn't get a screenshot of this sectioning slide, make sure that you take a section. Take a screenshot. So remember, we're doing pixie cuts. We're just utilizing 3 clean sections. It's that easy, but we can create variations with how we use our finger angle to get a bunch of different variations or customize it to our client. We started by sectioning the parietal ridge. Everything below the parietal ridge was section 1. We went through with pivoting diagonal sections, moving from center back towards the front on either side. Then with the bridge, we simply took that out at a horizontal 90, and we cut that in to blend and match the guide length that we had from section 1. Now we're moving into section 3, which is a triangle shape on top of the head. I'm just working in lines moving from center back to center front, and then on either side elevating it, and we chose it to be longer as it moves to the front. So our finger angle is changing to give us that length as it moves to the front. So that's your guys' recap on there. Let's see, shortcut take precision no matter women or men. That's why I don't understand why people think men's haircuts should be less expensive. It's not about styling, time, how long. Oh my gosh, Jill, love that comment. That's great. Yeah, you know, like long haircuts, short haircuts, they all take the same amount of technical skill and know-how, right? Like nobody wants a bad short haircut. So I think, you know, what we're actually doing in our salon right now is we're starting to evaluate, like, what is the time? How much time are we spending on the haircuts? And it doesn't matter, right? If it's a guy or if it's a girl or whatever, it really just comes down to time and making sure you have the right amount of time and you're charging for the right time as you are working through any haircut, long or short. So yeah, think about that. And I know so many salons are starting to just change. We either are giving you a short cut or a medium cut or a long cut. And the price is based on the time that we have to do it. So yeah, it's really important. So great for bringing that up, Jill. Thank you. All right, I just want to go over blow drying this a little bit too. And then we're going to customize it and detail it. Don't feel like at the wet stage, it has to be perfect at that placement, because all the fun, all the customizing is going to come in once it's dry, and you don't want to lose all of that by cutting it all off when it is wet. So for my styling products today, what I'm using I'm going to use one of my favorites, you guys, Velvet Gelatine, right? This is what I think is really cool about Velvet Gelatine. The smell, I wish we had smell-o-vision, because smell-o-vision would tell you this smells like cardamom. I think cardamom is a really unique scent for a product, because usually a lot of products are really sweet, and that's great, but this has a little bit more of a spice scent to it, which is really great, and it's really distinctive. So I always feel like our clients really notice that when I use it on them. So cardamom's the scent. The other thing is it's a really high shine gel. So medium hold, high shine, but the shine's inspired by patent leather, which is a really good visual connection. So just to be able to say to clients, you know, one, I'm using a product on you that has cardamom in it. That sounds kind of cool. But the other part is that it has high shine to it. So that's what's going to differentiate it from maybe the product they're using at home. And we really want to make sure that it looks really shiny and healthy. So that's why we're using that product. Here's the other thing I want to show you guys. In my salon, we stock all of our stations with Samvia tools for all of our stylists. And so we just ordered some new of the new blow dryers. So you guys know this is the Pro Light Ionic blow dryer, but I just want to show you some upgrades I just made on this because I was kind of blown away. First of all, take a look at that nozzle. Do you guys look at, like, this nozzle is super sturdy, and they narrowed out that airflow vent a little bit more. So it's going to give us more control for these kind of haircuts. But also, you guys, look at this. I was just saying to Andrew, this is kind of like the Cadillac or the Mercedes emblem on your car, right? It's so, like, this is so nice for this vent. I was super impressed. I know, like, a lot of times we're cleaning this vent out all the time. I think this is going to make life so much easier, but, like, look at that little Samvia gleam on it, which is good. So I'm using this blow dryer with the control nozzle. I'm also going to come in with a 9-row Denman style brush with this. And I'm really just going to wrap dry this. So I want my nozzle to follow my brush, and I'm just going to work over the round of the head and smooth this shape in. And I like to start wrap drying over the head shape, one direction. And here's the thing is that I don't always want to build up a lot of volume. So if I start coming in with this brush and start lifting and pulling, I'm going to get it really like high, and it's going to kind of take away some of the cool smoothness of it. So that's why I like to wrap dry, and I'm utilizing the round shape of the head to give me curve in my shape. And no matter which way they style it, I'm always staying really neutral in my round or in my wrap drying. So I do a little bit one way, and then I'm going to go back again and do it a little bit the other way. And sometimes we have those clients who are like, oh, why are you blow drying it that way? I don't wear my hair that direction. And so we need to educate them and share with them, I'm doing it because this is going to make it easier for you to do at home too, because we're using the roundness of your head to give us roundness in the shape, which is supported by our diagonal lines that we cut, right? So keep going back and forth. And this is where we have, you can see, this was the side that we left a little bit longer. So we have more detailing and more play to work with in our shape. And now you can see as we start combing this into place, like look at this nice shape that we're getting that just sits on the head perfectly. And we haven't used a round brush. We haven't had to pull our flat iron out yet. Just by working with this brush, the benefit of it, you know, with these 9 rows, and it's a rubber base, so it actually heats up. So that's what helps to polish the cuticle and make this smoother for our client. And I also have this blow dryer on high heat but low blow. So it's not blowing the hair around, so it's going to give me more control. And we can do low blow with short haircuts because we're not trying to power blow this. We have a length that supports slow and controlled with our blow dry. So we're coming into that shape. The other way, work through there. And now I'm going to do the same thing in the back, just wrap dry it a little bit. Now, one of the things as you work through shorter haircuts, sometimes what we do is we come back after and maybe do shear over comb and cut back up just to smooth that out. What I want you to think about before you grab your texture shears or your straight edge shears and start scissor over combing to smooth that edge out, remember we use those diagonal lines. The diagonal lines were designed to give roundness and softness to the head shape. If I then afterwards come into this haircut and do scissor over comb, I'm going to show you so you guys know what I'm talking about. If I start coming in here and I start scissor over combing, what's my line of direction right here? Horizontal, right? So if my intention was to create roundness and softness with diagonal lines, why am I then going to come back in and start blending that all out with horizontal lines? It's going to work against what we do. If you are at all going to come in and you feel like you need to scissor over comb this, make sure you're following the same lines that you took in your section. So rather than come horizontally, you can change this and work vertically. But if you're taking small controlled sections and you're really watching your guide, there should be little need at all to have to come through and double check that with shear over comb afterwards. So I just want to come back. Okay, so remember, on one side we were working with, we'll go this way. One side, this was more classic shape. And you can see as I turn her, more classic short shape through the side. This is the bridge that connected into the top. On this side, we changed our finger angle, and you can see how that plays with that shape. So now she has a little bit more length that we can come through and work with. So this is all in the detailing. So now this is when I'm probably going to pull out what shear? I'm going to pull out this, my favorite curved, right? So this is with the artist series. This is the sliding shear that I'm going to work with because this curve helps me to push and create softness. So then I can come in and start carving out and detailing this. Make sure you guys can see. So this still is a pixie cut, but now I'm starting to create, do you see all that softness and interest that I'm getting into the side of the shape? And that's why we just left that length so we can play with it. So just to go over a little bit again, I want to talk about these girls. So with these little benchmarks I created, same thing. So Parietal Ridge below, section 1, diagonal lines. You can see it went a little bit shorter all the way through. This is actually undercut because then as she comes to the front, it's still, let me show you, she's still short underneath, but as I worked through the bridge, I gained length. I changed my finger angle so it got longer as it moved towards her front. Then I let it get longer to the front as well. So that's what gives her all this fun texture to play with in her fringe area. Boop, doop, doop, there we go. In her fringe area. But if I lift this up and say what's underneath, it's short underneath because it's disconnected and the long sits on top of it. So that's how I played around with this look. Now, alternatively, when we say like, okay, so shags and mullets shorter in the front, longer in the back's really coming in. So that's what we did this shape here. And remember, like we talked about earlier in class, through section 1, right below the parietal ridge in the back, I let my finger angle change. So it went from short to long. Then as I came through that same below parietal ridge section, I changed the length. So this is disconnected from here to here, but I made a shorter length. And then once I cut that length in, I came in with my shears and I cut this outline that continued into a shorter fringe that has disconnection from this long top on top. Yeah. But the biggest thing is, you guys know your 3 sections: below the parietal ridge, that triangle bridge, and then on top. If you do that and then play with your finger angle, you guys will have mastered your short haircuts. And for all of you in the beginning who said you're scared or you feel unsure, hopefully you've gotten some tools to get into the salon. Now, here's the other thing I'll tell you. A lot of times we have mannequin heads laying around the salon. Hard to find long head mannequins. I always have short-haired mannequins that are ready for one more haircut. So look in your storage, find those mannequin heads, get them out, practice this a little bit. Use your screenshots of the sectioning that I showed with you. Play around with your finger angle, then have that ready to go with your client. Do your dress rehearsal before you get into the salon. But this partnered with the right product is then going to help elevate it. The other thing that I used on them, just to show you guys, because this is one of my favorites, the Redken dry shampoo paste. If you guys haven't used this yet, I really suggest that you check it out. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Dry shampoo mixed with paste. So now we have a product we can put in clients' hair that's short and they want texture and pieciness, but they're not going to wash it every day, right? So it's going to give them more longevity to their look as well. And then that way they don't have to wash their hair every day because they still have the dry shampoo in it. So you guys, I hope this helps. Andrew, did you learn anything in class today?
I learned a few things, I'd say, yes. I like having the transition area, kind of sectioning that out as its own area to focus on, because that does tend to be that tricky area of like, okay, I got the length on the sides that I want, but now how do I get to this length on top? So I love having that transitional piece there to say, okay, this is how I'm going to make that shift from the short on the sides up to the longer on top. So that was my big takeaway.
Yeah, super. That's great. Yeah. Well, and you guys, for those of you who are already following me on Instagram, I've been posting up, updates about this Pixie class as we come. If you're not following me, go to my IG page, follow me, and you'll see I put like a few segments all about Pixie cuts, recapping all of this. But then, of course, you can always go to Sam Via's YouTube page where this will be uploaded, so you can still come back. And if there's any tips that you missed, you can always catch up with all of Sam's education on YouTube and on Facebook.
Well said. Well said. Mandy, thank you so much from all of us here at Sam Via. And thank you so much to everyone that participated and commented. Let's please show Mandy some major love for this incredible hour of education. And yeah, we'll have you back very soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. Thank you, Sam Via family. Thank you to all you guys who showed up today. And congratulations for taking part in some education on a Monday. Good job.